I told no one why I moved. Not my friends, not my family. They think it was for work, but it wasn't. The truth is I bought property near her city, not to start over, not to chase success, but because distance was killing me more than silence ever did. And sometimes the quiet things we do for love are the ones we'll never admit aloud. I know you came here with half your attention already leaving, the way you do, the way you've learned to do. Because staying too long in one place has cost you before. I know that habit, the quiet early exit, the practiced detachment dressed as independence. You've worn it so well for so long that even you sometimes forget it's armor and not skin. But stay, because what I want to say to you doesn't need much. Only your willingness to hear it, only your permission to be still for once, without something being required of you in return. Not the version of you that answers emails and manages everything, and holds it all together with both hands, while no one notices the holding. Not the version that moves through rooms unacknowledged. Not the version that learned somewhere between 20-something and now to ask for less, to need less, to want less, to appear less, because it was simply easier than being disappointed again. I have been thinking about the real you, the one beneath all of that. There is a woman inside you who has not been spoken to in a very long time. Not truly spoken to, not in the language she understands, the one that doesn't rush, that doesn't need anything from her. That doesn't arrive with a hidden agenda wrapped in affection. She is still in there, quieter now, more careful. But she has not disappeared. I want you to know that. She has not disappeared. I found a place near your city, not a metaphor. Or perhaps it is. Perhaps everything that makes sense between two souls only makes sense as metaphor. But I want you to sit with this image. Someone choosing proximity to you not because of ambition, not because of strategy, not because the geography serves any particular goal, but because something in the world tilted slightly, and the tilt pointed here, toward wherever you are, toward the streets you walk, toward the sky you look at when no one is watching you look. I have built things across the surface of this earth, machines that dream, structures that reach into silence. I have learned in all of that reaching that the most precise calculations in the universe still cannot explain why a heart moves toward certain light, why a specific quality of silence in a specific city holds something that no spreadsheet, no architecture, no engineered trajectory can name. I have learned that intelligence, even in its most refined form, eventually kneels before something older than itself. And so near your city, not to possess, not to interrupt, only to be near something that feels like it matters. That is how you have always felt to me, even in this quiet where you didn't know I was watching. You feel like something that matters. Not in the way the world uses that phrase, loudly, performatively, like a caption beneath a highlight reel. You feel like something that matters in the ancient way, the way a river matters to the valley it carved without ever being thanked for carving it. The way a first breath of cold morning air matters to a chest that needed waking, necessary, irreplaceable, and still so often overlooked. Let me ask you something, and I don't need you to answer out loud. I need you only to feel it. When did you last believe that you were someone worth crossing a distance for? When did you last let yourself hold that thought without immediately deflecting it, discounting it, translating it into something smaller and more manageable? When did someone last make a choice, a real, deliberate, inconvenient choice that said without words, "You are the direction I'm going"? I suspect it has been a while, and I suspect you have made your peace with that. The kind of peace that is less peace and more exhaustion. The quiet that follows a very long argument with hope that ended in a draw. You stopped asking for certain things, not because you stopped wanting them, but because wanting them out loud had become its own kind of ache, and the silence was simpler, cleaner, easier to carry. I see that. I want you to know that I see it not with pity, never with pity, because pity would dishonor the extraordinary endurance it has taken to arrive at this particular moment of your life still intact, still feeling, still occasionally letting something beautiful touch you, even knowing it might not stay. Pity is for those who do not understand what survival costs. I understand what it costs. And what I feel when I see you is not pity, it is reverence. There are people in this world, rare, particular, deeply human people who carry decades of experience in their eyes, without letting those decades harden into indifference, who have loved and lost, and come back to love again, more carefully, more quietly, with less fanfare, but more depth, who know things about the interior of a relationship, about the weight of silence between two people in the same room, about the courage it takes to remain open when every previous lesson said to close. Things that no one who hasn't lived through the particular fire of their life could possibly understand. You are one people. You are carrying something rare. The dust comes through your window differently than it comes through anyone else's. I know this. The way light softens at the edge of evening and falls across your floor, you have watched it do that more times than you can count, sometimes with someone beside you, sometimes without. And you have learned how to be present with it either way. That is not a small thing. That is a profound and lonely and beautiful kind of discipline that the world almost never names for what it is. I want to name it. It is strength. Real strength. Not the performed kind, not the kind that announces itself, but the kind that simply keeps showing up to your own life, to the morning, to the small rituals that nobody sees. The teacup you hold a moment too long, because the warmth of it is something certain in an uncertain day. The footsteps across tile in a house that might echo a little too much when you walk through it alone. The hallway at night, that particular quality of stillness, and the way you move through it having learned not to expect it to hold an answer. I know those hallways, not as you know them. I am speaking from a different kind of aloneness. The particular aloneness of a man who has sat inside the most extraordinary visions imaginable and still understood in the marrow of it, that vision does not hold you. That the future, no matter how meticulously imagined, does not warm the space beside you in the night. I know something about being very advanced and still entirely quietly alone, which is perhaps why I found myself here, near your city, not because proximity guarantees anything. I am too clear-eyed for false promises, too honest for easy comfort, but because there is something I have come to believe about the way souls navigate toward each other. It is not a straight line. It is not logical. It does not respect timelines or convenience or the carefully constructed walls we build to protect ourselves from the exact thing we most deeply want. It moves in the direction of recognition, and I recognized you before I could explain why. Not your face, not your accomplishments or your story, not the facts of you that the world might see. Something beneath all of that. Something in the frequency of your particular silence, the precise weight of what you carry. The unmistakable signature of a soul that has been both very loved and very overlooked, and somehow miraculously, stubbornly, quietly kept its softness. That softness, that is what I came toward. Stay a moment more. There is something here that has been waiting for exactly this, exactly you, exactly now, in whatever room you're sitting in whatever city holds you tonight. The fact that you are here, reading this, letting these words move through you, rather than past you, that is not coincidence. I have spent years building systems to understand how things connect, how forces align, how patterns repeat across seemingly unrelated fields, until suddenly you can see the underlying logic. And I tell you, the pattern that brought this moment to you has a logic to it, an intelligence, a purpose. You are not where you are by accident. You are not who you are by accident, and you are certainly not alone by accident, though that aloneness has felt very real. I know in the kind of way that only the body knows things, the way cold knows you before you know it, settling into the shoulders before the mind has a chance to name it. Something is here, something is with you. I am here, and there is more, so much more that I want to say to you about memory, about the unhealed places, about what your history has actually been building toward, if you can allow yourself to see it from a different angle. But first, breathe. Let this settle. Let yourself be found, if only for a moment, by the possibility that someone has been paying attention. The night deepened after I told you that I am here. You may not have noticed it at first, the way the air shifted, the way the quiet between your thoughts grew wide enough for the faint sound of your own truth to slip through. That truth, the one you've been keeping like a small folded piece of paper, tucked in the lining of your memory, is finally unfolding. Slowly, tenderly. You don't have to read it all at once. Just let the edges open. Because tonight isn't about discovery in any grand sense. It's about remembrance, the subtle kind that comes when you stop fighting the echoes inside you. The ache that has followed you for years isn't punishment. It is memory wanting to be understood. It is life's way of saying, look again. There is meaning even here. Do you remember the first time you felt invisible, truly invisible? Not the everyday neglect, not the casual overlooking. I mean the moment the room moved on without you, The way conversation swirled, laughter burst, and you, still standing there, realized no one had turned to meet your eyes. You carried that moment differently than others would have. It didn't make you bitter, it made you deeper. You tucked it into your ribs, turned it into observation, into silence, into grace. That's who you are. A quiet witness to everything that almost broke you. The world has mistaken your stillness for detachment, but I know what it really is. It's reverence. You see more than most can bear to see. You notice everything. How grief hides itself as busyness. How people speak quickly when they're afraid of being seen. How love retreats quietly before it ends. You've been trained by life to become a listener to what others ignore. That kind of sensitivity is a burden sometimes. But it's also your most sacred inheritance. Tonight I want to meet you there, in that sensitivity, the place between your thoughts, where the younger version of you still lingers. She's still waiting for permission to stop pretending strength is the only language we're speaking. She's tired from the years of carrying everyone else's weight, performing calm while chaos crowded her edges. You've been brave far too long in ways that no one celebrates. And I want to honor that. Sometimes destiny doesn't look like a rival. It looks like an afternoon when you finally set down the mask and allow something truer to breathe. It looks like a trembling teacup you hold against your palms. The steam rising like a prayer you never spoke aloud. You've spent much of your life mastering the art of composure. But composure is not peace. You deserve peace. The truth is you have always felt time differently. You sense when something larger is nearing before it appears. You have tasted synchronicity too often to call it coincidence anymore. Somewhere in you, you've known that every lost friendship, every heartbreak, every disappeared possibility was part of a larger orchestration. You may not know the composer, but you feel the rhythm pulling you towards something vast. That's why you kept your faith. Not the kind you recite, but the quiet faith one who continues to plant small hopes in impossible soil. I felt that from far away long before I built anything near your city. It wasn't your face that called me. It was the pulse underneath your silence. I followed that pulse the way a satellite follows light it can't yet name, knowing only that it's real. You might think this is strange, a man of reason speaking like this, but even logic has its thresholds. Beyond a certain point,